Hey folks, welcome to the channel. Today we're going to be going over this 1200 watt inverter generator, gas inverter generator from Heomaito or Heomaito. Not exactly sure how to pronounce that name. We're going to be going over the specs. We're going to be giving it some test runs. I'm not going to go over the complete setup of these generators. I did that on a few videos ago with my other generator, so I don't want to bore you with that. But just a quick glimpse of some of the features of this generator, guys, is it's 300 bucks on Amazon. If you compare it to a 1000 or 1200 watt solar generator from Blue Eddy or EcoFlow, obviously that is much less expensive. It does require gas. The other guys require sun if you want to charge them up with sun. Of course, you can use AC grid as well, but there's pros and cons of both of these systems. But I'll tell you, dinosaur fuel is never going away. But it is a very good option to have at least one generator, gas generator, at your disposal in the event of emergency or, whatever the case is. Just keep one of these around. Now, this guy is going for $300, $299.99 actually on Amazon.com. It's got a 3-year limited warranty on it, so that is kind of on par with a lot of these other gas generator brands, but it gives you a little bit of peace of mind, and they've been around for a while, so it's not one of these brand new outfits. So I think that 3-year warranty will be pretty valid in the event you have something go wrong with this generator. It's got a 60cc 4-stroke engine in it. It's got a 0.66 gallon gas tank in it, so it is not a huge gas tank. You can always look into the options of doing external spare fuel tanks to feed this if you want to run this for a very long period of time. But let's just call it a little over half a gallon worth of gas that you can put into this thing. And it weighs 25 pounds dry. That is with no oil and no gas in it. So it is lighter by quite a bit compared to some LiPo 4 1000 to 1500 watt power stations that I have. You can carry this thing around. It is not that heavy. It's going to be a little bit more once you start putting liquid in it, but it's still not going to be unbearable to carry around. But the main features of this unit, coming around to the front, you're going to have your main fuel control knob up here in the top left. It's either on or off. Your choke lever's over here on the side, so you don't have to mess with any chokes up here on the front. Your main off-on button right below that fuel control knob. Then you've got your low idle switch. So this does have 2 modes, like most inverter generators. You can put it into low RPM, low idle, or high RPM, which is going to be required to run the full 1000 watt load. This is parallel capable, so if you do like this, you can buy a second unit and get up to 2000 running watts if you parallel connect them with these parallel ports. It's got a grounding screw in it if you do want to ground this. It does have a couple of USB outputs, which is a little different than the last generator that I ran. You got a USB-A and a USB-C output right here. And then 2 120 volt, 20 amp AC receptacles. And your main reset switch should you overload it. And it does have a CO2 detector, so if this detects too much carbon monoxide in the vicinity of this unit, it will auto shut down, and that light will start blinking at you to let you know why it shut down. You've got a low oil light, you've got an overload light, and then you've got a running light indicating that this generator is creating and outputting power. And as far as what comes with it, nothing really. I mean, you get a little tool bag with your spark plug remover tool and a Phillips head screwdriver, and then this oil funnel, which it might not seem like a big deal, but it's threaded. You can screw this into the oil fill chamber, and you're not going to have any leaks when you put oil in it or when you have to take it out when you're flipping it on its side. It's threaded with an O-ring, so you don't have to worry about any oil messes. As a side note, this is a brand new unit, and you don't want to push brand new generators up to their max rated running watts until they get about 5 to 10 hours on them. You want to break these things in. I've mentioned that in the past, but you don't want to go pedal to the metal right off the bat on a brand new generator. You kind of want to baby them and take it slow for the first 1 to 5 hours. Then you can open up the throttle and really start pushing these things to their max rated capacity. But as far as the oil, I think to change the oil, we're going to use this little cheap Phillips head that it came with. And I'm guessing that, I wish that was a captive screw, so be careful, that will fall out. Okay, and the oil fill is right down here. All right, so I got my concoction of 350 mils worth of 10W30 conventional oil. I do always put just a little drop, maybe half an ounce to an ounce of this Marvel Mystery oil mixed in with the 350 mils worth of oil. I just think it works. I've used it forever, and I've never had any problems with my small engines. But here's the funnel that I was saying that I like. It might not be a big deal, but it actually screws in to the oil fill cavity, so you can just pour directly into this funnel, and you don't have to worry about a huge mess. You're still gonna get a little bit naturally. I've got oil on my fingers here, but it sure does make it a lot easier to put this oil in. All right, in 350 mils, you should be able to see this oil about halfway up the threads down here, and that's when you know you got just the right amount of oil. You don't want to overfill these things, or you'll have a mess on your hands. Yep, and it looks like I'm about perfect, so I'm gonna get this dipstick put back in. Get all this white back down, and this is your air filter as well, so you do need to maintain your air filter. If it starts to bog down a little bit, just take this cover off, blow out your air filter, and they even make air filter oil that you can use to spray on it just a little bit, but really simple. There's just a screw down here in the bottom, unscrew that, pop off this cover, and clean out your air filter if you have any problems. That's usually the first thing to go. So there's no gas in here yet, but to get that oil kind of circulated through that engine, I'm just gonna take this pull string and just give it a few pulls to get that oil circulating. And then we're gonna take it outside, fill it up, start the testing. All right. Hey there. First go round. All right, now it's warmed up. Well, first pull starts are always fun, so I'm gonna let this run for about 5 or 10 minutes on high idle. Let that engine break in really good this first go around. And I'm gonna switch it to low idle, let it run for about an hour. I might put like a little 200 or 300 watt load on it. And then once that's done, I'm gonna change out the oil, because you wanna do that after the first hour on any new generator. But then I'm gonna put some load test on it, then we're gonna make sure that we get 120 volts, and then we're gonna check the sine wave. And then I'm gonna hook up my EcoFlow to it, because I can really dial in the charging parameters that I want this thing to charge up my EcoFlow with. And I can put it right at 1,000 or 1,100 watts. I don't recommend doing that on a brand new generator, but for testing's sake, I'm gonna see if this thing truly can put out 1,000, at least 1,000 watts to charge up my EcoFlow. I'm gonna run a 500 watt load, 500 watt space heater right here. $200, $213, $250. Right at 500 watts, 501 watts right there. It did kind of struggle a little bit to get there, but I'm thinking it's probably because this unit's so new, it is not broken in at all. That's why it's so important to break these things in. But we're right at around 505 watts right now. Sitting pretty comfortably. Let's check the voltage. So that's good. 500 watts, 122 volts. Let's check the sine wave. Very clean sine wave too. So that's great. At about half of its capacity, half of its rated capacity, we were able to get 122 volts and a clean sine wave. Again, pulling around 511 watts. All right, so I've got the generator sitting down there about 20-25 feet away on low idle mode. So about 55 decibels. I'm gonna go kick it up to standard idle and see what we get. About 58 decibels. Okay, let me explain this setup, but first I want to point out a cool feature I just found out. So this does have, your fuel control knob is on and off, right? So when you turn it to off, it actually acts as a fuel shutoff device, and it empties out that entire carb. So on some generators that don't have a proper fuel cutoff switch, when you cut it to off, it just shuts the engine down. This, however, they have it set to where when you turn it to off, it doesn't shut down immediately. It burns out all of that fuel on that carb bowl, which is gonna help to keep this thing healthy and easier to start next go around. So I didn't know that it had that, so good to know. But the setup for what I have here behind me, I've got my EcoFlow Delta 2 Pro, and it's sitting at about 80% charge. So we're gonna hook it up to this gas generator, and I've got an app that I can use on the EcoFlow to dictate how much charge I want to input into the Delta from that gas generator. And I'm gonna put it right at around 1,000 watts to see if it'll handle it. Now, I don't recommend doing this in real life on on your own generator right at first, because it's not good. You wanna break these things in, but for testing purposes, let's see if this thing can actually output 1,000 watts of charging into that Delta Max. Charging cord for the Delta 2. There we go. Let me show you the app. Okay, so right now up in that top left, you can see I'm putting 685 watts into that Delta 2 Max. I'm gonna bump this up. My AC charging speed, let's go to 800. You can hear that engine start to rev up a little bit. Okay, now let's just go to 1,000. $980 watts. Well, we've been going strong for a few minutes now, and it's charging. It's inputting 1,000 watts into my EcoFlow Delta 2 Max. Let's see if we can push it a little bit harder. Speed, let's go to 1,200. There's 1,100. So 1,108 watts going into that Delta 2 from that generator now, which is 8 watts over its rated max running capacity. And this is what I was talking about. So if I turn this knob all the way to off, you can see it doesn't completely shut down. It's going to burn up that fuel in that carb bowl, which is a very good feature. Well, full disclosure, guys, I honestly didn't think that this would charge up that Delta 2 Max at 1,000 watts running. A lot of these very small generators are rated at 1,100 watts, 1,000 watts, but it's really hard to get to that. I'm surprised that this did it. So, and it's brand new. It hasn't been fully broken in. And once you get these generators broken in, they run a lot better up to their rated capacity. So for this to not even have 2 hours on it, to input 1,100 watts into that Delta 2, that's pretty impressive, in my opinion. I didn't think it would work. There's that, guys, and pure sine energy, so you can actually use this to run LED TV, any TVs, laptops, charging up computers, any electronic device. This should be safe to use with it because it put out a very clean, pure sine waveform of energy, so should be good to go there. And another thing that you guys might not be thinking about that these little generators are good for, because they're not going to power an AC unit or a heater or anything like that. But if you have an RV and you've got these standalone chargers, these work perfect if you're boondocking and your batteries run dead. You don't have a grid to charge into. You can plug in one of these battery chargers directly into this generator and charge up your batteries in your RV. This is a 20 amp charger, so it's not going to get anywhere near the 1,100 watts rated capacity. But that's another good example of why these little generators are good, because they're easy to take around. They're easy to fit in the bed of your truck or wherever. They don't take up a huge space. They're not a giant generator that weighs 100 pounds. So anyway, I don't mean to ramble, but I am pretty impressed with this generator, especially given the fact that I haven't really fully broken it in, and it was able to juice up my Delta 2 with 1,100 watts. That's pretty good performance. Guys, I'll leave a link for this generator down below. It came from Amazon, so check it out if you want to. But until next time, we'll see you soon. Take care.